Hello from Yerevan. This is the podcast Pigeon of Peace, where we do discuss awesome skills of troubleshooters. Watch, listen, and check description to navigate through the questions. Let's talk about national myth, and let's start with the definition.
Maxim, national myth, this is a story which makes people proud. And to start from the funny note, let's talk about, I have been to Macedonia, this very small country, and it almost nothing to be proud of. But suddenly I was told that we are a very great country and we have temporary difficulties, but previously we were a great empire. Okay, I know Roman Empire, I know Osman Empire, but about Macedonian Empire, I have been never told. And I was explained. It was a time when Alexander Makedonsky, he was conquer the big part of the world from Macedonia to India. And by the way, his teacher was Aristotle and so on. And we were forced to collect money from the crowd, from the people, and we will build the biggest monument of Alexander Makedonsky in our capital. And I asked them, come on, guys, you have so many monuments. You know, it's very funny, but they have almost on each crossroad, they have monument of someone. But if you will look at this person and read who it was, even in the center, you will never know who it. So it's just usual people. And they told, yes, but we could create a very significant one. And I asked them, okay, but do you know it was Rome Empire? They have, yes. It was a Turkish empire. They say yes, but everyone knows about those. But why no one talks about this Alexander Makedonsky Empire? And I was ashamed. They told, you know how many cities Alexander Makedonsky named after his horse Bucephal. And even Alexandria is a city in Egypt named after Alexander Makedonsky. And at this point, I stopped and I asked, could I check it in Wikipedia? And suddenly I realized that those people were completely right. So this is national myth. This is a story for people which they use to feel themselves important ones.
And when we speak about different country, obviously they may have like a different myths, etc. So, but sometimes I do believe it's also is necessary to support a certain image and use myth in order to, build it up, or maybe add a certain colors, or maybe even at certain circumstances you want to actually, slightly adjust your myth so that you can push your agenda. So how, if let's say, for example, we are on the side of the government of the specific one, how do we make sure we bring those myths to the reality, and how do we maintain them in order to build certain impression of our country?
I will explain, but maybe those examples would be not so pleasant as previous one. When I was living in Ukraine, I was maybe 90% of time talking in Russian, because it was my native language. My mother was born in Russia, my father was born in Russia, so in the family we talk in Russian. Not the same Russian as Russian people do, but almost the same language. And suddenly I was speaking with a very famous showman. He was a friend of mine. I was given to him and his friend money and credits and so on. And they were dependent from me. But suddenly it was a joke in our team, in our company, something like, okay, it's nice time for Russians to swim in the coffins on the Dnieper River. And I asked him, okay, but it could be also good Russians. And suddenly, with a lot of laugh from all the people, it was an answer. Okay, good Russians could swim in good coffins, but bad would swim in bad. And I was asking, why are you telling? You know, I'm almost Russian and I use this language. And I was told that I should switch to another language. And I asked, but why you do this? And I was answering that all Russian people should be hung up on the branch on the tree. And I was, after this, forced to go, and I was leave this company, and I was thinking why it happens. But after some time I realized it was election time, when people are choosing the next president, and there were a lot of leaflets. And on those leaflets were written that previously at the Soviet Union time, Ukraine was the place which was production the most part of pшеница, wet production. And I was thinking, okay, maybe. And also it was written that Ukraine was the main part of metallurgic production. I would doubt. Coal production and some other. And I was thinking, why people wrote this? Maybe they want to believe in this. And after several years, it was another kind of myth. It was like чемодан, вокзал, Россия, like a suit bag, train station, and another country. And I was told a lot of time, maybe 20 or 50 times, that I should go to another country. But when I switched and I moved to Russia, the tone of those voices sadly changed. You should stay with us because we need some kind of protection. And now I'm thinking, why people made this? The same, I have been to USA, and I have been living with some guy who was also a troubleshooter, but he was working for oil rigs. It's okay to say oil rig, oil rigs. He was responsible for catastrophes and for аварии, disasters on oil rigs. And I was told a lot of time that Texas people, this special people, and this state is very special, and maybe someday Texas and some states would be divided from other country. I was thinking, what is going on? The same was in Spain. I was working for Torres, is a very big wine production company, and there were some people working, and they called themselves like Basque. And they also were saying, I am not Spanish, I am Basque. The same was in Turkey. I was working on some project. I was living in Istanbul for a long period of time. And suddenly I heard the story that we are Kurds, we are not Turkish. And I was in so many countries, almost in all countries, even for example in China, also some tribes, they say we are not Chinese. So they have special myth. They have no chairs in the government. They do not interfere into politics. They are very small, but very proud. We have special kind of thinking. They are much cleverer than everyone. We will wait until our country will be weak and we will be divided. But why?
Well, this is actually kind of reminds me of something small, and then I will move to something bigger. To a certain point of time, I was believing that my family is not like a changing as a man, but then I was told by a smart person that actually it is changing, and there was like logical explanation. But what I was feeling, this thing actually could make you feel like a special because, hey, you have something like something that you know, like could distinguish you. And in my small experience as well, like when traveling through different countries, each nation actually thinks they're very special. They're like a choosing one. And usually what they would say, like, it's only happens with the Indonesian people or like maybe with the Thai people. So it seems like each country would develop their own national myth. But when we speak about something, you know, like how the myth burn, but sometimes there's also might be the place or time when the myth is going to be sunsetted, regardless of like a different circumstances. So how this usually happens and what kind of forces may affect this?
It was in Japan. I have been working on Toyota factory, on Toyota plant for almost 1 year and several months. And suddenly I heard the story that Americans the best friend of Japanese. And I asked them, come on, guys, do you know that you were bombed after the Second World War? And your empire surrendered because of those huge explosion of 2 nukes. And all Japs people, they were so angry. You're talking to us bullshit and so on. And I asked them, would you like to go to internet to check? No one did it. No one. And they were completely sure that US people, they were allies. And I was asking, okay, maybe this was told by TV, but could you check it in English part of internet? If you don't want to go Japanese, why you believe so blind? And I was ashamed. What is said by our officials, we should say. if you have another point of view, maybe you should leave our country. It was so amused me. I was never expected. So people do not want to switch on critical thinkings. They were told and they should believe.
And this brings me to like one of the last questions, like how to fight with a national myth, like whether you come up with something else or maybe you just like try to distract people in case if you just like feel that will be more productive or even like a constructive or good for people. And again, maybe I just put the pinch of salt. The definition of good might be also like a different for different type of the people. And sometimes it may not be completely.
Maxim, I also will give you an example. I have been working to Hawaii on a very luxury hotel, and I was granted room on the very high floor, and my room was surrounded by the sea in all directions, and I also was given, I don't know how to say this, binocular, which is used in Navy. How binocular? The name of it. Binocular. And I could see very far. And almost each day I was asked by the general manager how I find Hawaii. And I was telling, the food is very fat. The noise is very high. The ocean is not so clear. And I was explaining him about Seychelles. I was explaining him about Maldives. I was explaining him to some other parts of the world, and he was almost angry. And he was talking to me about the same you told previously. We are chosen nations, and this is just a heaven, just a paradise on the earth. And I told him, was an author, and his name was Mark Twain, and he was a French guy, and he was talking that paradise on the earth, it is a Mauritius. And this Hawaii person was completely out of mind. And he was telling, this is the best place all over the world. And I asked him, okay, I almost sure that you are right, but how many countries you have been visiting? And suddenly I hear an answer, but why should I go somewhere? I am living in the paradise. And I said, okay, you are living in a paradise. So this person was never leaving those islands, and he loved them. And national myth is that some god from the sea created these islands and put on those islands the best people. By the way, he was very proud that those men who wrote Rich Dad and Poor Dad, his name was
Robert Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki was born on the Hawaiian, and he told me that this is a very important man. And I asked him, do you know, for example, Dan Kennedy, Brian Tracy, and some other? And he told, I do not need. Kiyosaki is quite enough to know.
Well, and those like examples actually show us how knowing about national myth would help to make this world a better place. And we looked at the skill of national myth and how it could be helpful for you stay in peace.